Brethren and friends, good evening. Thank you for joining the Rubicon Masonic Society tonight for episode 76. Brother Nathan, I'll have to get you the playlist that was playing from when I have a moment. On behalf of
Wonderful.
the Rubicon Masonic Society, we're very excited to be with you once again as we gather together outside of our lodges to learn a little bit more about Freemasonry, how to better utilize the tools of the craft within our everyday lives. Again, this marks episode 76 of our virtual Masonic education discussions since we began this series in 2020 entitled 21st Century Conversations on Freemasonry. For any of you who are returning to our education, we thank you as always, appreciate your continued support and participation in our education. For those of you who may be joining us for the first time tonight, we welcome you. We hope you enjoy tonight's education and discussion. Feel free to chime in when the time is right. And finally, for anyone watching this video online, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, the Rubicon Masonic Society, so you never miss an episode of our monthly education. If you are a Freemason and have any interest in joining in the future for a live presentation, you can RSVP at rubiconmasonicSociety.com/RSVP. As always, I want to say thank you to the Rubicon Masonic Society, members of the Ware Lodge of Research, and of course, Lexington Lodge No. 1. The brothers within these lodges and societies have been instrumental in the progress and future of not only the Rubicon Masonic Society, but Freemasonry as a whole. So, as always, thank you, brothers. Worship Brother Alan Martin, chaplain of the Rubicon Masonic Society, will you please deliver an opening devotion?
Brothers, let's pray. Grand Architect of the universe, as we gather for this meeting this evening, unite our hearts and our minds for a common purpose. Grant us the wisdom to apply the tenets of our craft so we may improve our lives as we labor to become better men. We pray that you bless our presenter and our discussions so we may be productive in our undertaking. These things we pray in your holy name. Amen.
So mote be. Thank you, brother. Brothers and friends, our virtual Masonic education aims to help us to become better men, always devoted to our family, our faith, our country. May we all come together tonight to learn, to subdue our passions, to discipline our minds, and improve ourselves through the tools of Freemasonry. Any opinions expressed during this virtual education will be those of the presenter or participant. They do not necessarily reflect the views of any lodge or Grand Lodge or the Rubicon Masonic Society. By participating with us, you do consent to our guidelines, and our full disclaimer can be found at Rubicon Masonic Society/disclaimer. Just some quick protocol and other recommendations, and we will jump right into tonight's education. As you know, these are not tiled meetings. Masons and non-Masons are more than welcome to attend and participate. So, brothers, please be mindful that anything discussed this evening should always be suitable for Masons of all degrees, as well as non-Masons. Gentlemanly manners at all times, please. No alcohol, no smoking, no eating or foul language during the presentation. No discussion of politics or religion. Attendees may be removed if not following our protocol. To best ensure that these meetings do go as smoothly and are as enjoyable as possible, we do recommend the attire for each meeting to be coat and tie. Please type your name and any appropriate Masonic title or location under your video so you can identify yourself to others. If you're not a Mason, please simply type guest after your name. Please enable your video camera if dressed appropriately so all attendees can see you. Please reduce any background noises and keep your microphone muted, please, when not speaking. Please turn off all other programs to eliminate distractions. And as always, brothers and friends, please be patient should any technical difficulties occur. Tonight, looking forward to our presenter, Worship Brother Nathan A. St. Pierre, and I will hand over the microphone to our Worship Brother John Bizak for a more appropriate formal introduction.
Thank you, brother. Nathan St. Pierre holds a doctorate in music education from George Mason University, a master in education from Kodali Music Education from Loyola University in Maryland, and a bachelor of music from Hart School, University of Hartford. He's been a Mason since 2009. He's past master of the Lodge of Nine Muses, number 1776 at the Grand Lodge of Washington, D.C., and currently serves as musician from Melbourne Lodge number 143, the Grand Lodge of Florida. He's a recurring contributor to Philalethes Journal, and he is the author of Harmony in the Hive, a vibrant vision for Freemasonry's future, a book that he will be discussing this evening. Brother St. Pierre, the floor is yours, sir.
It is absolutely my pleasure to be here to speak with Rubicon Masonic Society. I think so highly of you that when I got the invitation, I jumped immediately. I'm so delighted to be here.
Great.
Now, virtually, I'm with you in Kentucky, but I've actually been to Kentucky 3 times, but only 2 of them count. Okay, so I was there for the Masonic Restoration Foundation when it was in Cincinnati, because I stayed in Kentucky because it's, much easier to do. Then the second time that actually counts was for a friend's wedding. It was in Breaks, Virginia, right at the very tip. And when we had free time, I crossed into Kentucky because the golf courses were chef's kiss, so gorgeous. And then the time that doesn't really count, we were driving through, and we stayed. We got dinner with a friend's family near Murray State. So I've been in Kentucky a few times. So I'm delighted to be virtually with you in Kentucky. Now, as Worshipful said, I was raised a Mason in Washington, D.C., and I moved to Florida, and I'm now the lodge musician, and I'm very happy in that role. So in 2009, when I was raised, it was actually 2 months before Dan Brown's Lost Symbol came out. So I was there right for the sort of the bump that we got from those books like the Da Vinci Code, Lost Symbol, the specials that were on Discovery Channel, History Channel, all of that. I sort of got in right before that bump. And then when those people were coming in, the fraternity at that time wasn't really ready for them. And here's what I mean by that. The turn of the millennium for Freemasonry was very interesting, because in the 90s and the early 2000s, a lot of Grand Lodges were experimenting with things like one-day classes, all the way in a day, and various ways to make becoming a Mason more what they perceive as easy. And so when you had these interested people coming in and saying, oh, we're looking for, the secrets of the universe, and they're like, oh, well, we don't really, they just weren't ready at that time, right? So the person who raised me was raised in a one-day class, and proficiency requirements were basically non-existent. So there were conflicting opinions in my mother lodge about how Masonry should go, and I found on the Grand Lodge page that there was one lodge that was calling itself, unabashedly, they'd said, we are a contemporary mystery school. Those exact words. And I was hooked. I showed up, they were doing an installation of officers, and I was like, this is as boring can get, but you guys made it interesting, sign me up. And the master at that time said, that sounds great, show up for a year and then we'll talk. And at that time, I was already raised a Master Mason. And so when I'm told no, it's like the one girl who's wearing a bathing suit at the nudist colony. It's so exciting because of something that is being kept from you. So I hung out for a year, and then I became their senior deacon, and they had a non-progressive line. And so it was pretty fast trip for me to the East. I became very involved in the traditional observance movement around 2013, 2014, 2012 in there. And I was a very active member of Masonic Restoration Foundation. And I haven't been as active in the past few years, but I was very active in that type of movement, right? So when I moved to Florida, I found Masonry to be very different from the Masonry that I had experienced, which was very sort of eclectic. Washington, D.C., if you know anything about it, has 48 lodges just in one city, right? And of those 48 lodges, like 35 or 36 of them do Washington, D.C. ritual, and like 12 or so do a ritual that is not Washington, D.C. So that being emulation, it's in French, Farsi, Scottish Rite, rectified Scottish Rite. I think they're the only rectified Scottish Rite in North America or something like that. I don't know. The point is there's lots of rituals. So you can really be an international traveler simply by going on a different day of the week. So the same building, right? And then in Florida, it was very much in the lodges in my district. It was like, well, there's really no difference. They're all essentially give or take the members, the individual members, that they're all essentially the same, right? So I recognized that there were things that I could improve immediately, but I was finding myself being, how do you say it? I was stopped and oh, well, you're just not from around here. We don't do it around. That's just not the way. Like, I was getting all sorts of excuses that weren't good excuses. So I said, I've been master in the chair for 4 terms. So, my experience is like 4 past masters, put them together, it's the same, right? I got stuff to offer. If Florida, if at the time they're not wanting to engage with me in that way, maybe not, like American Masonry in general does. So that's what started me thinking about harmony in the Hive. What can I offer to the fraternity that is beyond me, because I'm still working in the trenches doing my own thing, but what can I offer beyond that, right? So that's where this book was born out of. 100 years ago, Masonic lodges were building temples that literally towered over their communities. When you think about the golden age of Masonic architecture. And now it's 2025, and we have Masonic lodges in the United States that still charge under $200 a year in dues. And we are supposed to steward this for the next 300 years. And currently we're not in a way to do that. So rather than be fated to be a Cassandra, for those who've read the Iliad, she gets the gift of prophecy, but nobody believes her, right? So I figure if no one around me is gonna listen, then here's harmony in the Hive. So the Beehive is a central metaphor that I use for our Masonic renewal, because we say that Masonry is considered under 2 denominations, operative and speculative. Well, operative is the hive, right? Bees have to have a place to live, work, and do their stuff. It's the hive. And then speculative Masonry is the honey. It's symbolic of wisdom. So it's what the bees work for. Okay, the bees have to work for something. So at this time, I realize I'm not sharing my screen. We're still watching Worshipful Brian's screen. Okay, very good.
Okay.
So
Yep.
very good. I just got all excited.
Go ahead whenever you're ready. Yep.
All of that was on this screen. So you haven't really missed anything, friends. Okay, so here we are. I got a QR code here, and there's the URL there for you. This is share, please, in this Google form. Share one word that you hope your lodge could become, right? And I'm going to grab some of these words, and I'm going to make a word cloud. So you use the link and add your words. Mm. And I will share this with the group afterwards, just so we don't, we're not going to sit in silence, but I will give a couple minutes to go ahead and get there.
So everyone should know, if you're not, this is a QR code. Just grab your cell phone, open the camera, snap the picture. It'll take you to this form link. And yep. Inside of there, you can enter the one word and then hit submit, and all that will go to Worship Brother Nathan.
Yep. So I'll start talking while they're filling that in. So the Beehive, I'm delighted that we have brothers from Bulgaria here, because the Beehive is very much still an American symbol, and it fell out of favor with those who do emulation type work, or anyone who's comes out of, like, say, UGLE or that sort of system. That the symbol hasn't been used in quite some time, but it made its way over to America. So I'm excited to talk about the Beehive as a Masonic symbol for people who might not necessarily know that. So the bees, if you think about like a Renaissance idea of bees, they're a symbol of society in miniature. All right, that's the Shakespeare quote from Henry V. And so the Beehive was widely understood as a metaphor for a well-ordered human society, where Shakespeare likens it to a kingdom, where they, you have a ruler of sorts, and then they go about their business. So the hive also symbolizes contributions for the greater good. And so this parallels the idea of Masonic fraternity through cooperation. I like to always remember that when we're talking about Masonry, it's about we, not me. And so for Freemasonry, by the 18th century, the beehive was established not only among the intelligentsia, but just in mimetic hegemon, so to speak, as a symbol of industry. Okay, pardon me. I'm gonna have some tea, and that rhymed, so it must be true. By the so the beehive was a Masonic symbol for unity, industry, cooperation, and it was already being used on medals, like that they would cast, banners that they would sew, embroidery, things like that. So the beehive was absolutely part of Masonry in the early 18th century. So because bees build not only physical structures, but also have enlightened, are like enlightened virtuous selves. There was a practice in the British Isles of you would tell your secrets to the bees. So like if somebody died or somebody got married or whatever, if you saw a bee on a flower, you would tell the bee, because the bees were sort of like this embodiment of the collective unconscious of the soul. So if you told a bee, like it was like spreading your thoughts into the other regions, right? So beyond industry, the beehive also represents the equality of labor and balancing of the operative and speculative tasks, because you need a place to work, but ultimately the thing you're working for is the honey. And contemporary Freemasonry, my diagnosis is that in many places we are focused only on the hive and have completely abandoned all attempts at save the Rubicon Masonic Society is clearly working towards preserving the honey and the efforts therein. So this idea reminds me of Marcus Aurelius. And so he says, don't you see the plants, the birds, the ants, and the spiders and bees going about their individual tasks, putting the world in order as best they can, and you're not willing to do your job as a human being? Why aren't you running to do what your nature demands? So that's the nature of the bees, is that while you're sitting under your blankets wanting to be warm and railing against the fact that you have to get up another day, the ants, the birds, and the bees they're already up and they're already at it. So what we should be doing as Masons is running to the temple to work as quickly and as hard as we can. And so this lecture comes to America via Webb, and Webb publishes in 1802. Let's see, nope, not yet. Went too far. Webb publishes in 1802, the beehive is an emblem of industry and recommends the practice of that virtue to all created beings, from the highest seraph in heaven to the lowest reptile of the dust. It teaches us that as we came into the world rational and intelligent beings, so should we ever be industrious ones, never sitting down contented while our fellow creatures around us are in want, when it is in our power to relieve them without inconvenience to ourselves. So I talk about the beehive. I share the lecture. I'm sure Americans have heard it. Here's an example of a beehive from Troy, New York. That I think this is a ballot box, actually. So I want to put in the chat, okay, have any of you seen beehives in your lodges and maybe not like immediately recognize, like, oh yeah, that's from the lecture? I'll give you an example. In a Florida lodge close to us, where the stewards and the deacons place their rods while they're not being used, the holders are beehives. So that's an example. So in the chat, I'm trying to keep this as interactive as I can, because you're all spending your Friday or Monday night with me. So in the chat, any examples of beehives that you have seen in your lodges?
From Lexington Lodge 1, yes, we definitely do.
That's fantastic. So the beehive lecture also has a more pointed admonition. In fact, it's my favorite part, and it's the part that gets blinked over so often. When we take a survey of nature, we view man in his infancy more helpless and indigent than the brutal creation. He lies languishing for days, months, and years, totally incapable of providing sustenance for himself, of guarding against the attack of the wild beasts of the field, or sheltering himself from the inclemencies of the weather. It might have pleased the great creator of heaven and earth to make man independent of all other beings, but as dependence is one of the strongest bonds of society, mankind were made dependent on each other for protection and security, as they thereby enjoy better opportunities of fulfilling the duties of reciprocal love and friendship. Thus was man formed for social and active life, the noblest part of the work of God, and he that will so demean himself as not to be endeavoring to add to the common stock of knowledge and understanding may be deemed a drone in the hive of nature, a useless member of society, and unworthy of our protection as Masons. It's right there in the bee that as they prepare for winter, they kick out the drones that aren't carrying their weight. And we as Masons are supposed to do the same thing via the West Gate. And that sometimes, unfortunately, is even for brothers who we've already let in. And this is the concept of what the early Grand Lodge Masons referred to as false brethren. See, they didn't mince words either. So as early as 1728, I found that it is generally to be observed that of these are the false brethren who fail in their duty and obedience by their ignorance and being strangers to the intent and constitution of the sciences. Edward Oakley, he was an architect, and in 1728, he wrote the entire series of lectures for his lodge when he became master, saying, like, thank you for making me master, but you guys don't know anything about architecture or anything that makes you, worthy of the title of Freemason. So as such, here's a magazine that I wrote. Like he printed a book for everybody on to catch them up to speed on architecture. Basically, he was like, you have no business being intellectually uncurious if you are going to call yourself a free and accepted Mason. Earlier in 1722, there's a book where they liken the false brethren to Judas, and even David Erskine Baker in an address to his brethren said that even among the chosen 12, one was known to be a false brother. So this concept of Masons who aren't really in it for intellectual curiosity and trying to learn stuff and trying to be better, like they're just in it for the regalia and the pomp and the circumstance and the outwardness of it, they were called false brethren. and it was in the literature, and now I think we call them knife and forkers, right? And so this humorous designation to refer to brothers who primarily attend for the meals or the social aspects, and then they don't really care about philosophical development. In fact, I think in the 20th century, somebody made a knife and fork degree where you can actually put out on a satirical degree where the working tools are the knife and the fork and so on and so forth, right? But this is it's a send up, it's a lampoon of those false brethren. Another way we might conceive of these is I've sometimes heard them called ring masons or card carrying masons, meaning that they just want to wear the ring or have the dues card. They're not interested in anything else. It's about the car emblem and so forth. It's that it doesn't, membership is their identity rather than it's actually a path of self-improvement and transformation via mystical ascent. Right? You could also lump in we all know some lapel pin masons or challenge coin masons where all it matters is like how many they can collect and like as though they're Pokemon cards, and that's another aspect of this. It's sort of like there's nothing wrong with regalia and pride if that is the message that is communicated. If the message that is communicated is it's just my 15 pieces of flair, so that way I don't get fired or my boss does, you know what I'm saying from the Office Space movie. So all right, slide 8. So what are the challenges facing modern masonry? Well, as you can see on the screen, this is my personal investment account. Ever since I started buying Bitcoin, you can see it just starts going. No, I joke. But this is the Masonic membership since 1924. 1959 was the peak at like 4,100,000 members. And then ever since 1959, it has been a decline. So anytime you want to listen to somebody talk to you about the golden age of Masonry, the age they're referring to is actually the beginning of the decline. So that's a new way to reform that that conversation. The true golden age of Masonry is the stuff that is building up. What are we doing in the 30s and 40s that's making them want to join, right? Administrative burdens have taken over speculative work completely. I already made one office space reference, but here's another one. I talk about TPS reports, right? Because in Florida and in many Grand Lodges, it seems like there's a form for everything. And before you fill out the form, you had to fill out the form to collect the form from the form giver. And then once you get the form from the form giver, then you can fill out the form. But it has to be received by such and such a date before the gavel drops, or else it's like, and so on and so forth, right? It's the formalism for the formalism, rather than, no, there's a process, because if it's not in on time, then we can't print the certificates in time, and so on and so forth, right? Like there are reasonable things, and then there are just, we do it because and endless minutes, right? Like I had the pleasure of mentoring 3 new Master Masons, and they were so excited to attend their first meeting, because in Florida you can't attend until you're a Master Mason, because all business is on the 3rd degree, and I was like, I'm so excited, you're going to get to hear minutes. And they were like, ha, 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 ha. And the first meeting, we got to read 2 sets of minutes, because there was also the special communication. Yay. So I was so excited for them to get to hear 2 sets of minutes. Right. All right. It's a tough crowd tonight, I guess.
Now you're doing fine. You're good.
All right. So in the, we're going to go back to the chat here. I want to know, what's the biggest challenge that your specific lodge, in your opinion, and this is going to be all over the map, right, is currently facing? Because I think by sharing in the chat, we will have sort of strength in numbers. So I want to know, what are some challenges facing you in the chat, please? For those of you who are curious, I grabbed this off the MSA page also. So this is specifically the decline. I grabbed DC, Florida, and Kentucky, and you can see just the past 5 years, the gain loss. Yeah.
And the source of these stats?
This is the Masonic Services Association of North America, the MSANA. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, all right. This is another interactive portion, right? Because my philosophy is we come to a lodge to do work. We use terms that are labor. We go to labor. We're set to work. Here is a tool. Here is like, everything is supposed to. If labor is the idea, then it's not supposed to be comfortable. It's supposed to be hard. You're supposed to actually do a thing. You need to take a chisel on your own vices and knock them off, right? Knock it off, right? How many times you guys say that to your kids? Knock it off, right? That's what we're doing. We're knocking it off. And so as I give you these activities, it's not because I just want busy work and I want to fill time. We could fill a half an hour just people asking me questions. I'm certainly like not. It's about getting you in the mindset of, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Like you need to see the problems that might be in your lodge. That way you can have a path going forward. And if you don't admit that you have any problems in your lodge, then I don't know if we can have a path going forward. So I'm going to share with Worshipful. You can see at the bottom that there's a hyperlink here. The hyperlink sends us to a worksheet for the exact thing that I just showed you, right? Which is this lodge revitalization sort of timeline. This is only for your information, so that way you guys, for reflection purposes, as you're thinking about where are we going, and what should we be doing. Again, this link that's here is I will send that out. But I'm letting you know that because I often get questions after presentation like this. Where can I get a copy of that image that you're showing of the timeline? It's for you. And you can even see that the years on this are off because the first time I gave this presentation was toward the end of March. So you would adjust, right? But the idea is that you want to have a phased approach. And so it's got to start with assessment. You got to figure out, all right, what's working, what's not working, what are the attendance rates, where are we? What does the actual data say? Not the fluffy how I feel about it, just where are we? And then from where you are, where am I going? These are the only two important questions in Freemasonry. Whence come you? Whither traveling? Where are you and where are you going? So where we are right now, and we're going toward the east, toward light. We're trying to get better, aim up. So where's the lodge currently, and based on our goals, where are we heading? And then you need to plan. Okay, if the goal is we want to have X, Y, and Z happen in the next 6 months, here's the practical time things that we have to do in that time to get to that spot. And then you do an initial implementation. So you're going to start doing the thing. And so often you start doing the thing, and then when it doesn't work or it's met with lukewarm response, you just immediately quit. Well, you can't do that. You have to do the thing multiple times before it becomes a habit. Otherwise, we'd all be skinny, and we'd all be at the gym every single day, and we'd all be completely healthy and never eat sugar and never drink alcohol, and we'd all be amazing but it's not that way. So to build the habit, you need to continuously do the thing. So after initial implementation, you're also evaluating the implementation. All right, hey, we tried it, but we did it at a restaurant, and it was noisy, and we couldn't really talk or what have you. So you're evaluating that, and then you adjust in the middle, not when it's too late. Not when you got an outgoing master and it's like, oh, well, no, in the middle, you figure out how it's going and you readjust, evaluate progress, gather feedback, and then fix the plans. So that way you can try to get success earlier than you thought. Full implementation can only really happen after you've done an initial and then did a sort of a retro on it and figured out what did or did not work. And the evaluation is at the end of every year. Usually around St. John Day, you can be like, and hey, here's how did we do? And then that becomes the basis of your plan for the following year. So if Freemasonry is going to insist upon progressive officers line, which I do not espouse, but if you're going to insist on that, at least let the lodge provide that man with as a best chance as possible for success based on actual lodge planning and data. So that's the idea behind the timeline here. And like I said, I will send out that link so you can have access to what that looks like. So we're going to overcome some resistance. I don't know if any of you have seen this guy, but he's been around. He's got his green beans, he's got his minutes, and that's all he wants. He's even got a little bit of a smile. How dare you? I'm so happy with my minutes and my green beans. Whenever I show this, I always get that one guy who goes, but I like green beans. I do too. That's fine. Resistance to change is often expressed as, we've always done it this way. And I'm going to tell you the translation of what we've always done it this way means, okay? Because a lot of people don't know this, but it's an old English term, right? It comes from the Germanic, super old. And what it means is somebody started doing this one time, we forgot why, and we don't want to stop. That's what that means. Or it means somebody started doing it this way and we don't want to embarrass him by saying it didn't work. That's another translation, but that's more that's a more modern. I'm sorry, I can't keep the ruse up. I'm better with a live crowd. I'd be great if I was there with y'all in Kentucky. I believe it. Okay. So the other thing they say is this isn't customary, or that's not how we do things here, or what have you. These are I always smile at those because they'll always say the word tradition. And I can assure you, as somebody from the traditional observance movement, that is not tradition. And I try to use the word custom, because a lodge does have many customs. But when we were talking about tradition with a capital T, we were talking about Masonic tradition informs us that at the building of King Solomon's Temple, X, Y, and Z happened. Masonic tradition is tradition. So this idea of a lodge of just dudes could be like, and we wear Hawaiian shirts on the last Friday of the whatever, like, and it's a tradition. Like, no, it's a custom, and that's totally fine. Have your customs, but never let the customs outshine the traditions of Masonry, if that makes sense. And so when you can reframe any of these concerns, because they're usually coming from a place of love, and they're usually coming from, objections are usually coming from the right place. You have to reframe concerns that you were losing something, we're diluting something, by showing how we're actually restoring to practice what has been, what was anciently done, right? What I'm currently, my how you say catchphrase that I'm saying nonstop around me is, you give me 3 candles and a piece of chalk and I'll give you a Masonic experience you'll never forget. It's not about where, it's not about how, it's about who. And it's even part of the lectures, right? What is a lodge? Is not the building. Lodge is the men. You in the same way that you do not go to church, you are the church. You do not go to lodge, you are the lodge. And there's the lodge celestial, the lodge terrestrial, right? There's all of these symbolic things, because you're supposed to be taking this practice into your everyday life. Financial disagreements also happen, debates over dues. Again, I can't believe at the beginning of this talk that there are lodges that are still under $200 a year, and yet that is the reality. And we're always going downtown and seeing beautiful temples that are now banks or somebody's art studio or what have you, right? With the right, but lodges with the right investment accounts have wonderful properties, right? Like there is a way to steward this into the future, I guess, is where I'm going with this. Leadership challenges often it can cause conflicts over lodge direction. It really helps if you have a lodge vision or mission statement. You need a North Star. That's the point within the circle to which we're all aiming. And usually that's God, right? Because everything in Masonry points to God. It references God is God. Like, so aim up, right? As Jordan Peterson would say. And that's the idea, is if you're aiming up, then disagreements will fall away, because you'll start to see, oh, this isn't his idea. It's our idea. It's not about we, it's about me, and the harmony in the hive. At this point, I would do another interactive element, but I think we'll have a better time in question and answer. So what are the practical next steps? Right now, if you're so inclined, again, this is about work. Think about one thing that you would like to do in your lodge, one concrete action that you can take to improve probably the problem that you thought about earlier, something you can do to improve that. And then I want you to text that to a brother. Say, hey, in the next 30 days, I'm going to do blank, and then hit send. And the reason you're doing that is because it gives you an accountability now. So it's not just, hey, I'm going to clean out the dirty fridge that hasn't been cleaned out in a while. It's now I'm going to do the dirty fridge and then send, because now in the next month you have to do that. So I want you to take a minute or two, please, and send us a text message to a brother committing to something you're going to do that's going to improve your hive. And while you're doing that, please continue to do that. Just to wrap up, for me, the beehive is the ideal symbol of Masonic vitality, because it is the lodge itself, and it is trees, the men who will sit under or plant seeds for trees under which shade they will not sit, right? One of the Latin phrases in my book is the bees work for honey they will not eat. That's the idea, is that the lodge, we're not working for us. We're working for the seekers of the men who will knock at our door, and we must be prepared to receive them in due and ancient form. Thank you, brethren. I hope that was all right for our time. I did want to leave plenty of time for question and answer, because I'm sure there will be some.
Thank you, brother. Thank you very much. Let's see here. Yeah, you asked a lot of us tonight.
I did, but this is a lot easier when we're in person.
So I'm not sure what your success rate is, but I guess why don't we start here? What were some of the words that came in about what people how they wanted to see their lodge in the future?
All right, let me bring that up. I have to switch accounts. Okay, switch account.
And I'm going to take the screen back if you don't mind, if you're through.
Please do. Yes, that's fine. Absolutely. Okay. Please do.
Thank you.
All right. I lost the screen though. All right, here it is. Nope.
So while he's pulling that up, brothers.
Yes, thank you.
We are in our Q&A session. So if you have a question or comment, you can enter it in the chat. You can raise your virtual hand, or if appropriate, feel you're more than welcome to speak up and unmute your microphone and just speak up at that time. And comments are great. Keep the questions are great. Keep the comments to a limit, please. We really want to try to engage with some Q&A as much as possible. So you're welcome to do that anytime. So while you're pulling that up, I do have another question, a quick question.
Yes, please.
What do you think are proper dues these days for a lodge and their membership? And
that's going to be a unique thing to each lodge. So what I always say is, you start at the end and you work backwards. You start with, what's the Masonic experience that I want to have? So for example, every time I come to lodge, I don't want to have to pay for a soda. Every time I come to lodge, I want to be able to, eat dinner without having to think about whether I had the $10. I want to be able to, insert whatever experience you want. I want all the new initiates to have both a leather apron and white leather gloves as part of their feet. Like, whatever experience you want to have, you start with that, you decide what that costs, and then you move backwards. What we do now is we start with, it's always been this, and this is how much we get, and let's try to stretch that as far as we can. And I'd much rather have no stress in the running of the year, because we've all agreed this is the experience we want to have, this is what that costs, and we go on. So to give you a more concrete example, my Washington, D.C. lodge in 2014 or so raised dues to be $365 a year, because we used to say, would you pay $1 a day to be a Mason? Everyone always said yes. So we said, fine, let's put our money where our mouth is. But I can tell you that that's probably that might not be high enough for them right now. Like, they're a small lodge and they have, challenges like anybody else. So even though that number is extremely high for some lodges, for them, it's actually not high enough, right? So that's why I hesitate to put a number on it, but rather, what is the experience of Masonry you want to have? And then work backwards from there. So I'll give you another direct example. Our dues in Florida are quite inexpensive, but then we would like you to give $30 for the Masonic home. We'd like you to give $20 for the Grand Master's charity. We'd like you to give $20 for the First Lady's charity. We'd like you to give. And so all of a sudden, what was an inexpensive amount has now become multiple $100s, but you just sort of nickel and dimed it via passing the hat all the time. And that's demoralizing for the brethren, that they feel like every time I come to lodge, they're just going to hit me up for more money. So that's why I suggest beginning with the end in mind and then working backwards, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I do have the word cloud. We had 12 participants. Let me take sharing back. Oops.
Oh, you're going to take it back?
Yeah, so I can show you.
Go ahead. Sure.
Word cloud, right? Oops, sorry. So here are your words. So the biggest thing that people wanted their lodge to be was smaller. So you had 12 responses here. So
good.
Okay.
I think that's a good answer. Who said smaller and why? And who wants to speak up and explain? And I said smaller. That was a word that I put in. Who else put in smaller and why? David?
Good evening, brothers. Hey, smaller just seems like the right way to go for me.
Yes.
We need to be smaller and focus more on the members who are active. I'm not saying don't, court prospects, but what I would say is if brothers aren't coming, okay, whatever. But the ones who do come make it an enjoyable experience from the fellowship and also a meaningful experience with the education. So that's why I think smaller. I think it'd be refine it, just seems better.
Do you know about Dunbar's number, Worshipful? Anybody in the chat and anybody in the group know about Dunbar's number? It has to do with the number of people that you can care about based on your biology. So he was looking at mammal-sized brains, right? And he decided like a social circle of a mammal is based on the size of its brain. And according to Dunbar's number, the number of meaningful relationships that a human being can have is between 150 and 200. So that's the number of people that you can actively empathize with, care about, know what's going on, and fully be invested in whatever is going on. So this is one of the reasons why I stopped being a public school teacher, was I realized there's 2,500 people in this building, and I can only meaningfully care about 150. And that is including my family, my friends, my lodge. Like, so since there's a limited number of people I can care about, like, it's really tough if you've got a lodge that's 300 people on the books, like, because you physically can't care about them all. And that sounds mean, but it's based in biology, right? Yeah. Small lodges have their own problems, though. I don't want to say, like, I also agree. I think Freemasonry isn't shrinking. I think Freemasonry is right sizing. I think we were always supposed to be small. To David's point, there's the Prestonian lecture, William Preston, his version of the ritual. It says, "What is the ground plan of Masonry?" And the answer is instruction. And then so I'll just go question answer. So what is the ground plan of Masonry? Instruction. Why is it so? Because no man is too wise to learn. What will the wise man do? He will diligently seek knowledge. What will the Mason do? He will do more. He will travel to find it. So this is the ultimate point of the traveling man, right? A lot of times they tell you, oh, you're a Master Mason now, you could travel to other lodges. That's not what it means. It means if I'm not finding my knowledge here, I'm going to travel to the place where I will find it, because as a Freemason, intellectual curiosity is the first and foremost thing that gets you in the door. Now, to the point of not recruiting, but like keeping the interested prospective members, you can do that to the extent that again, go back to my nudist colony metaphor, to the extent that you can keep them hooked with like, oh, it's going to be great once you're in, like it's going to be really great, like, but then you have to deliver. You can't be like, oh, it's going to be really great, it's going to be really great, and then hey, here's an hour and a half of minutes, like. So
Mm-hmm.
I see David's got a hand again. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead, David.
Yeah, and thank you again. You're talking about keeping prospects engaged. Well, at Lexington One, we have a slower burn when it comes to moving through the degrees. So it'll probably take a man at a minimum a year and a half to become a master mason from being initiated. And so what we do is the worshipful master will take the lodge to ease or refreshment, usually to ease, and then we'll usually go out into our dining hall, and then we have our period of education where it's the vast majority of the time it is appropriate for entered apprentice and fellow crafts. So it's always that's how we keep dangling the carrot, I guess, in front of the.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. So I'm gathering that you also can only do work on the third degree.
We can only do
Yeah.
labor on the third degree. Yeah.
So just another piece of education. This is we have the Baltimore Convention of 1843 to thank for this. So Florida also, you can only do work on the third degree. Washington, D.C. is one of the places where you can do work on any degree. So my lodge in Washington, it was a minimum of 1 year per degree. So you were an EA for a year, you were fellowcraft for a year, you were, and then, but the only reason we were able to do that is because you're not saying to a person, oh, I'll see you in 3 years, right? They're able to come in. So I absolutely respect and love the fact that you're able to do a year and a half for 3 degrees, because to me, that's giving as meaningful an experience as you can within the within what you have to work with. Like, we have to be practical. You have to do what's practical. So I love that. Very good. Yeah.
Thank you, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Gerald. Good to see you.
It's good to be here, as always.
Hello, Gerald.
This last thing that you brought up about doing your business in the third degree.
Mm-hmm.
Worst handicap that a lodge, in my opinion, can possibly have. And our lodge, I'm in South Pasadena, California. It takes at least a year and a half, and often 2, to go through all the degrees, because we go
Amen.
through in groups, and we only do one person at a time for any degree.
Amen.
And as soon as the person is an entered apprentice, and we have them sit together in the northeast corner, and they get to experience masonry. In that first degree, you give a man a white apron to wait and sit in a degree in a lodge and watch Freemasonry be practiced, to be able to our enter apprentices, our fellow crafts, they can enter a discussion, they can comment on things, they can ask questions. The only things they can't do is they can't vote and they can't hold office, but they become Masons at that point. And I one of the things I really specialized in my law career is the ability to put yourself in the other person's state of mind. And while that is very, very good for something that's a contest like argumentation in a court, I think it's even more important when what you're doing is you're in agreement, you're in accord, you have the opportunity to be there, accepted, and participatory. To me, if you're an entered apprentice and you're not doing anything except attend the dinners, and I think it's better if you are getting in just to listen to the minutes, to see other Masons there, to have the experience. I am a Mason. I belong to this lodge, and I think every jurisdiction that that doesn't do it that way is handicapping themselves. It's like you've got a ball and chain around one leg and you're limping forward, and you've got a bunch of guys that are bored stiff because they're not participating.
Gerald, I agree 110%. I want to ask you a question. Why
Sure.
why do you feel there's opposition to that within the lodge?
Well, I think we hit on a couple of them right away, Brother Nathan. This is the way we've always done it. This last year, we proposed the idea that we would only advance the line every other year. Of course, by code, you have to have another election,
Yep,
but
I like
um,
this idea.
the main beneficiary of that is the quality of your ritual. When you get into a new position, particularly when you hit senior deacon and above, um, what you should be concentrating on is getting really good at what you're doing, and instead, you're already working on that you're going to qualify for the next job. Meanwhile, while you're doing a mediocre job because of that distraction, as soon as you really get good at it, you hand it off to the next guy in line, and then you start as at stage one on the next thing. Um, and the two biggest arguments that we got about doing it every other time was uh, it I'd like to be master of the lodge, but I don't want to be committed for uh, for 4 years or 6 years. I just want to get. I want to go right to the top. Another thing that's a really, in my opinion, bad habit, and our lodge has had it a long time. Once you're master, they give you a life membership, for not payment anymore. We have guys in the lodge who are the master, and they've been there for 25 years, but they were the master in their fifth year because they zoomed to the top. And then now the last 20 years, they have not paid dues. And particularly for those guys who said, let's have a smaller lodge, that's suicidal to have a leader in your lodge each year and have them quit paying dues after that. We should be teaching, and we do this a lot at our lodge. Take your time. There's not any hurry to go anywhere. If you're not willing to commit that you're going to be an active officer in your lodge for the next 8 years, you should never even get to, let alone past, the senior deacon. Those guys, they have a lot of management business, but their chief business is making new Masons, not as we talk about a lot here, filling the chairs with more and more members. Members aren't very useful. Masons is what we want to have, but you got to let them participate. You got to tell them there's no hurry, and you should be if you're going to be an officer, if you're going to become the leader of this lodge, this should be a commitment that you don't have any horizon on. You're gonna be a Mason in that lodge, and you're gonna serve that lodge, and you're gonna bring other Masons in, because the whole purpose is to get a bunch of men together who mentor one another toward being better, better, and better. And another thing is the other argument was everybody should get their turn. There's this idea that Freemasonry teaches men to be leaders, but that the way you teach a man to be a leader is not take some inexperienced person and just give him leadership. You have to go on the MRF website and pull up that thing, 8 Steps to Excellence. And one of those is when you're going through the line, it's by merit only. And you should not be in there. You were talking about collecting pins. The worst thing than that is collecting
The worst is collecting degrees.
Office things that you're building a resume. And personally, I'm a person, I've been in a lot of groups, not just Masonry. I appreciate the minutes. I think when you're in a business meeting, going over what you did last time is a good idea. But I think that that what is a lot more boring, and where you get this is at Grand Lodge level and everything. I've gone to Grand Masters breakfasts, and they spend an hour introducing everybody there and telling every office they've held. They've been the leader of this, they've been the leader of that. You're busy, so busy being a leader, you're not actually being a Mason. This is a service organization. We're here to serve each other, not to glorify ourselves.
Yeah, I agree. Well, here's a crazy thought, brothers. If there's something that needs to be changed in the lodge, change it. Propose it.
Yes.
Bring it to the floor. Change your bylaws. It's not rocket science. It's called a financial responsibility.
One of my arguments that I made when we were talking about only moving the line forward every other year was that our basic principle is making good men better. You cannot become better by doing the same thing you've always done. Better is different. It's qualitative, not quantitative, but it is different. We have to be dedicated to changing ourselves for the better, not assembling enough pins to go down 2 lapels or enough offices that it takes 10 minutes to introduce you when you have something to share at another lodge.
Thank you, Gerald. Brother Nathan, I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
When you discussed in your presentation
Mhm.
lodge revitalization and the success of a brother, how do you define those things personally?
Pardon me, I was talking about success of whatever project you were implementing. So say, we want to do a seafood boil or what have you. We want to do
how
an
about
auction.
just a general then,
So
from lodge revitalization or brother success of a brother? How would you define that, do you think? Like, do you don't see lodge success as strictly success based on membership? Of course you don't.
Absolutely not. No,
So
I don't know. Because
what would you?
I had a joke earlier. Somebody, let's think about if Masonry is an internal journey, right? If we're talking about the spiritual building, that house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens, then how can I possibly be brought up on Masonic charges? How can you kick me out of an internal pursuit?
Right.
Like, so again, I'm this thing that we do, our fraternity, the bureaucracy of it is important. I call my book a love letter to the bureaucracy of Freemasonry, because it's what saved us from the Morgan affair. It did, but the map is not the territory. There's a lot of people that think Masonic education is learning how to be a Freemason. In other words, how to exist in this world of call this guy right worshipful, call that guy right excellent, call this guy whomever. Like he wears a red coat, he wears a purple coat. Like that's not. I mean, yes, it is Masonic education, right? But that's like we're talking like tier 1 Masonic education because it's completely about the hive rather than the speculative pursuit, right? So that's why I don't mean to diminish. Like this is not to diminish the operative lodge. The operative lodge, without it, we have nothing, right? So build your operative lodge, but then recognize that that is the house for you to source wisdom, rather than oh, but it's the GMOV, it's the district deputy is going to be here, and like all of that to me is like it will all be wonderful, like automatically, if your lodge is already in the mindset of we have come to a place of to work and a place of contemplation and a place of whatever, then you're going to have a great GMOV, you're going to have a great district deputy, you're going to have a great everything, because you're already mentally in a place where how could you not? It will all be wonderful because this is the temple of God, right? So did that address your question, worshipful? Did I sort of skirt
I
it?
was just probably maybe thinking, okay, well, I think most of us would agree, if not all, that a successful lodge is not about quantity of membership.
That's right.
But it is about attendance.
Yes, that's right.
I would think, right? Because if the lodge is
That's right.
providing value, then brothers will want to show up. I
Well,
think you
100%.
also mentioned in your beginning stages
Mhm.
of your presentations, what can I do to contribute? What am I
Exactly.
doing to contribute? I think that's another measurement of how a lodge possibly could be successful. Um, Obviously, we've talked about education and classes and the time through degrees, and so I think there's a lot of other ways to measure
Well,
success of a lodge.
there's also what kind of bees you have. So this is another way to frame it is so for example, I'm good at ritual, but I don't like floor work. I don't like floor work because I've been to a million different places and I know everyone's different. And I know that they didn't really like, you can't trace it. We can't look in a book and say, this is how they used to do it. Like it's all, so how you bang your rod or do whatever, like it's going to go in one ear and out the other. I do my best, but so I need to rely on the brothers who that is their thing. Right. So now my thing is going to be something else, right? I'm really good at Masonic music, right? So so that's going to be my thing. So I see it as you need to build your hive, and part of that, this is your data analysis that you're driving at of you guys see your attendance. Like what events do they come to? Do they come to events that are very social related or very education related or very ritual related? What are we? Track your attendance, see what people are going to, what do they want to do, and then give more of that, and then keep going. You try a thing and then you try it again. It's about building by doing, right? And then slowly you build a temple. Any custom, any 75th annual whatever started with the first annual whatever, right? So everything, just try it, just do it, right? So that's what that's what it's about. But you want to not recruit, but like celebrate the strengths of those who aren't your strengths, I guess is what I'm driving at. I don't need more me's. I need people that do the stuff that I'm not good at, because I recognize that I'm not good at it, and I need to lean on my brothers, right? Because none of us is the perfect one. None of us is we need to fit together as those living stones, right? So that's why the hive is useful also.
Yeah.
That reminds me of another thing that I think one of the things that we should stress a lot more is humility. This thing that what you should take pride in is your achievements. You're there to make the lodge better. And if you're all interested in yourself, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Right. It's not about me, it's about we. And it's about, and again, like kind of what Worshipful was just driving at is it's even about the Masons that are coming in 50 years. So it's about the Masons that are going to be in 300 years. Because Masonry has been around for that long. And so are we going to be the ones to kill it? Are we going to be? No, we're not. You know why I know that? Because let's fast forward. It's now insert year here. All of the Grand Lodges have all run out of money, and all of us in this room, raise your hand if you're going to quit. Nope,
That
nope, me
thing you
neither.
just said,
So,
Brother
right,
Nate,
right.
another thing that could be a real enhancement. We've just started doing this at every one of our degree conferral meetings. End the thing with a chain of union and talk about
We can't in
how,
Florida, but
yeah, and
but
well, we have to close the lodge before we could do it.
yeah, we can't do
But
that either.
oh, really? That's too bad because symbolically,
Uh,
you're noting not only are we in a chain of union with the people that are standing here around this altar, but
but with
as
all
well
Masons,
as all the Masons that came before us and all the Masons who are going to come.
correct. That's exactly right. Yes, in DC we used to end the lodge with exactly these. Now, part of that's I love talking to worshipful because from California and DC. So DC chartered California, so there's a lot of similar things. So it's really fun. But so when we would close the lodge also and then do the chain of union for the exact reason that you described, because it was so important to be like this is what connects. It's the Burns called it the mystic tie. In his farewell address in 1785. But 100% that it's a we didn't start it. We didn't start the fire, as Billy Joel would say, and to me, our job is to keep the flame burning. That's and as long as we are there to keep the flame burning, this is another part of the book that for those of you that will read it is Preston drives at that Freemasonry itself, notwithstanding, has still survived. You can't kill it. They've tried. They tried in the Morgan affair. They tried with the Taxel hoax. They tried with the anti-masonry movement. They tried with keep trying, and and still she persists. Right. So.
So if you don't mind, I want
questions, please.
wanted to call on a few.
Please do.
Worst brother Alan Martin, I'm going to put you on the spot if you don't mind. Since you have either publicly or privately volunteered to serve 7 years as master of Lexington Lodge 1,
Here.
which we appreciate, and your commitment and contribution to the lodge.
Here.
What do you feel makes a successful lodge or a successful brother within the lodge? Well, I'd be curious to hear your answer on that if you don't mind.
Well, I think what makes the lodge successful is when you keep seeing the brothers come back to lodge to continue their learning of Freemasonry. Now, it's not for all of our members because we have empty chairs. It's we're like any other lodge in the Masonic environment where uh, we see typically 10%, sometimes 12% of individuals that come to lodge, but they come back because of the culture that has been created in lodge of answering the question that is given in the entered apprentice degree. What did we come to Freemasonry to do? We came to learn and to improve upon delivering upon that concept in Masonry. Well, you got to continually explore. You got to continually offer educational dialogue, conversation, and programs that keep the members interested and focused on what Freemasonry actually is and what it's designed to do. I think that is the measure of success is those individuals that keep coming back, and we see it at every meeting. A lot of the same faces. We get a lot of visitors that come to our lodge because of how we practice Freemasonry and what we do to deliver upon the original intent of Freemasonry. And that is to explore Freemasonry in educational talks and conversations between Masons openly, including the entered apprentice, the fellow craft, right along with the master Masons in those conversations, and in some cases, interested individuals that have come into the lodge to fill out Freemasonry and see if it is a fit for them. We invite them into those conversations also. And I think that is the measure of success, is to know that when you look up, you're not trying to see if you're going to have enough members to open your lodge,
Right.
because they're coming to lodge and they're coming because of what's being offered. If the lodge fails to offer that, well, they'll go someplace else to find what it is that they're looking for. We have an obligation to deliver that, and when we stray from that, then we have the what was the term that was used, the knife and forkers, I think is what
Yeah, there you are.
you know, they're coming for the meal because
Mhm.
the practice is not to deliver meaningful content for those individuals and the members of the lodge that keep them interested in Freemasonry.
Yeah.
That's right. Carl Claudy said that there is one thing and one thing alone that Freemasonry can offer that a man can get nowhere else in the world. And that one thing is Freemasonry. Too often we try to make the lodge into something else. Like, oh, they want it to be fill in the blank. And then we try to make it whatever we anticipate that blank is. Instead of just basking in the glory that is what Freemasonry already is, and then just doing that to our heart's fulfillment, because then they have the experience that worshipful Alan was talking. And then that creates a series of fellowship and exalted experience done multiple times. That's what creates your lodge culture. And then once you have that lodge culture, that this is what we do here. Right. To frame it a different way, there's a quote that a nation is a group of people who've agreed to forget something in common. Right. And so we've all agreed that, like, hey, we're all on board with this one thing. Right. So that's how you create that, because then nothing can shake that, because that's the foundation on which you're built. This is our thing. Right. What's the Rifleman's Creed? Right. There are many like it, but this one's mine. Right.
Mhm.
That's it.
Yeah, good point. And for those of you who that don't know, obviously I was being facetious with Alan. He does such a great job in the East at Lexington that we always try to nudge him to say, I think you could do this for 5, 7 years probably. So little seed planting here and there. One more thing about the lodges. If you're not happy with your lodge, go to a lodge where you will be happy. Uh, so you're not stuck in any position. You have the ability to make choices and implement changes and be around like-minded men that be around like-minded men. It's okay to make changes sometimes if that's what it is. So anyway,
Worshipful Brian, Wilmshurst used the exact thing you just described. Wilmshurst used the bee to describe that, and he called it swarming, because it's what bees will do. If the hive gets too big, they'll swarm. They'll create a new queen, and they'll go and they'll
sure.
basically create a new hive, right? And so Walter Leslie Wilmshurst was saying that exact thing in Masonry. If you're not getting if these aren't your bees,
Yeah,
go work with a hive that are your bees, right?
Yeah,
So, yeah.
exactly. So, brothers, we are going to close here in just a few minutes. I wanted to give last word to Worship Brother John Bizak. Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Brian. Nathan, thank you for your presentation tonight, the time this evening that you've given us. I certainly agree with your premise, and your book adds to the narrative that needed today for sure in American Freemasonry. I believe that the greatest enemy of the great expectations of Freemasonry is idleness, and that idleness breeds the complacency we deal with. The complacency corrodes talent, corrodes potential, and it makes even the most brilliant ideas dull over time. The primary purpose that we instill and have for a number of years now, and that Alan continues, is the concept that the primary business of Freemasonry is the exploration of Freemasonry. And we define that very, very narrowly. But to explore it, it must be taught well beyond the ritual and the lectures.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't do that, we don't have success in our lodge, and I don't see a lot of successes in other lodges that don't teach it. But thank you very much for your presentation.
Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you, Worshipful.
Yes, thanks. Worshipper Nathan, any final words to close out your presentation before we proceed to close?
Again, I'm just delighted to have been with the Rubicon Masonic Society. I think very highly of the education work that you all are doing, and I'm very excited for what you all are going to do to affect change in American Freemasonry in the coming years, because we're all going to work our tails off to make sure that we will celebrate the quadricentennial in 2117. Right, so very good.
We appreciate that, and we appreciate your time and your contribution very much. And all we try to do is just bring brothers together to talk about Freemasonry. What better way to learn than talking about it? And John, before you go, we all want to wish you a very happy birthday. I feel like I keep getting older and looking older, and you keep looking younger. I don't know what you do, but you need
I
to
feel the same way.
You need to start sharing those secrets. So, brothers, please throw a happy birthday in the chat for our worship brother, John W. Bizak.
Thank you, brothers.
We appreciate you. All right, brothers, a few other quick things for those of you that will be able to join us in December. Our December meeting is the fourth Monday in December, December 22nd. And we will send out the announcements prior to that meeting, and hope you can join us even during the holidays. For those of you who are not aware, the Kentucky Long Rifle raffle is over, and the winner who won the Kentucky Long Rifle is Worship Brother Nick Irvin, past master of McKee Lodge in London, Kentucky, member of the Rubicon Masonic Society, also a member of Lexington Lodge No. 1. Well deserved. So congratulations to him. It was nice to have a local brother win it, selfishly, because that prevented us from having to figure out how to ship this massively large tool to our brothers. So again, for those of you that did participate, thank you so much. We were able to raise a good chunk of money for the William O. Ware Lodge of Research to continue to fund and support Masonic education, Masonic events. So again, thank you, brothers. We appreciate it. Let's see, a few more quick slides here. For those of you that are not aware as well, please go check out the craftsman.org Birthday Boys website. A lot of great information in there that you can see. You can purchase books. You can see tremendous history, articles, resources. It's a great Masonic resource. Strongly encourage you to go visit that. We also have a great relationship with the Philalethes Society. To further your Masonic education, they have quarterly booklets that they sent out, established 1928. Nathan, John, do you guys want to say anything about the Philalethes Society?
I would love to. So I'm actually the new journal that will be coming out soon. I have an upcoming article on a 1751 ode from the moderns, and in a recent journal, I did an article on memes, on Freemasonry as a mimetic way of communicating. Anyway, I love the Philalethes Society, and I encourage all Masons who are interested in scholarly pursuits to subscribe to the journal and also to contribute articles for publication.
Absolutely. Thank you. Let's see, Rubicon Masonic Society. Again, we do have our Volume 1 transactions. We are in the process of a Volume 2, but don't hold your breath, because there's a lot of work that goes involved with that. If you have any interest in taking advantage of purchasing the Volume 1, you can do so at the bottom of the screen. It's available on Amazon. We appreciate it. If anyone has not seen the documentary by the Rubicon Masonic Society, The Masonic Table, please go check that out. It's available for rent or purchase as well on Amazon Prime. We hope you enjoy. And that's one of the blessings that did come out of the COVID situation. Without COVID, we probably would never have done a documentary about this event. So thank you. Any other final comments, brothers, from anyone here this evening? I do have one. I hope Worship Brother Dan Campbell, who's not able to be with us tonight, is feeling quite a bit under the weather. So wish him well. I'm sure he'll be just fine, but it's something's going around and he caught it. So if he's listening to this later, we hope you feel better. Worship Brother Allen, would you please deliver a closing devotion?
Brothers, Grand Architect of the universe, creator and provider of all things, we thank you for this occasion and time we have spent here together this evening. As we prepare to close our meeting, we ask that you bless us with perpetual awareness of the principles instilled by our craft as we work to fortify our abilities to be just and upright in all of our undertakings. Let us always be aware of the many blessings that we have received and from where those blessings emanate. Amen.
So mote it be. Thank you, brother. Brothers, again, thank you all for joining us. Our next meeting, again, is December 22nd. For anyone that may be watching this and would like to attend, you can RSVP at RubiconMasonicSociety.com/RSVP. We hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving with their family and friends if you celebrate that. And until next time, brothers, may we always be happy to meet, sorry to part, and happy to meet again. As we close today, please enjoy this song called Reborn by British classical musician, composer, producer, and pianist Alexis French. If you've never heard his music, it's excellent. And his music has more than 1 billion streams. So please enjoy this closing song. Thank you, brothers.